If you look at the questions, the first question was digitization of rural economy. What exactly they meant to ask you by giving this question? So actually this question looks like a GS question, but how are you going to address it from anthropological perspective? Okay, how are you going to address this? So in order to bring the anthropological perspective, you just think, what is anthropology focusing upon? Anthropology focuses on the social change, right? Anybody you look at, even one question was asked, how LP Vidyarthi and MN Srinivas differ from each other in understanding social change in Indian villages. So the ultimate thing that you have to discuss here is the social change that is happening. First, give the historical and social context. Okay, so previously, how was the socio-economic conditions and what has happened because of changing economic activities? Okay, so their livelihood is changing and the economic activities are changing because the rise of e-commerce platforms, digital payment systems and mobile banking, it has provided rural communities with the new opportunities for financial inclusion and economic participation, right? So now we can look at from the anthropological perspective that it is shifting or alters the traditional systems of economic change, or sorry, economic exchange and social organization. So how previously the social organization was present, now due to introduction of this new age economic activities has brought change in their social organization. Okay, how the social grouping is formed, because previously there were merchants, landowners, now it is completely altogether different, right? So these all things you have to discuss as a part of this answer. Then you can bring up the cultural shifts, the social relations, and how the gender relations are also impacted due to the digital infrastructure that has been brought. So you have to ultimately talk about the social change that has happened at different strata of the society. Right. This is with respect to first question. If you have any doubts, we'll take up at the end. First, what we'll do is that we'll try to look at how we should approach the paper. So coming to the next question, see, I'll be discussing the PYQs in a greater detail, but I'm just trying to give you an overview so that what the exam is demanding. So in order to meet the demand, what we should be knowing. So next, coming to origin of state societies. See, there are various theories with respect to state societies. This I generally discuss with neo-evolutionism. There, Wittfogel and hydraulic civilizations. There, they tend to talk about the origin of state. Okay, so I think that question was asked here. So you can also look at the Harappan maritime sites that has been asked in paper one. So how the maritime trade was present in Harappan time. So it's been a habit of UPSC that they change questions from paper one to two to one. Okay. So origin of state societies, it's based on the theories straightforward. For this you should have a good understanding. Okay, so that is the reason always you should emphasize on conceptual understanding rather than running after something which is factual in nature. Yeah, there are many people who tend to provide notes, etc., etc., but without understanding it does not make any sense, because UPSC, you can clearly look at it that UPSC is expecting you to understand anthropology. It is not expecting you to remember. It is very clear that the questions that has been asked in paper 2, it shows that anybody who understands will do well and who did not will tend to take a back seat. So if you look at the next question, Syro Malabar Christians, okay, they are also known as Syrian Christians or St. Thomas Christians, because these are the earliest Christians that were present. Now, how to approach these questions? Especially these are from Kerala, and in Kerala, first you have local Hindu customs. Now new people have come. Now when they have come, they have transferred certain customs to the local community, and they have imbibed certain, they have taken some customs from the local community that is present over there. Now, these Kerala Christians who were the earliest have maintained their original traditions along with imbibing certain cultures, and these people also influenced the existing Hindu society over there. And if you see with respect to the religion also, there is religious syncretism, that they borrowed certain features of Hindu people that were present at that point of time. If you can see, the earliest churches of Kerala used to be influenced by the Hindu temples. So these were the things that have been discussed by Balakrishnan. There are many other people. Let's not get into it. We'll discuss at a later point of time. But I'm telling you that what and how you should approach. So they are the people present over there. So in terms of, again, social change, you have to look at what things were happening, how their traditions have been changing. So are they reaching a equilibrium in between? Did they lose their identity completely? Whether the caste that is present over there, is it impacting? Because if you look at the converts into Christians, were mostly from the upper caste, so that hierarchy is still maintained in these Christians as well. So these all things you have to discuss. So if you have to discuss all these things, first you should have understanding of caste in Christianity. So this, in 555 course I have already discussed it, but anybody who is not with us, but still you should be aware regarding the caste in Christianity, that too in detail. Not just caste in Christianity, caste in any other religion other than Hinduism, because anyhow, caste in Hinduism is mentioned in the syllabus. But you should also be able to deal with the other religions also. Okay, next, artisan tribes of Jharkhand. See, this is a simple question. Many people think that how can we recall artisan tribes? See, you might have already read while reading ethnographies of various people. When you're reading ethnographies, they have mentioned certain tribes over there. So you can see Warrior Elvin has also mentioned while studying the Central Indians. And you also notice what do you call S.C. Roy while studying, they are also mentioned. So Central Indian tribes have been studied by many people. While studying, they have mentioned about various tribes. You have Asur tribe, you have Munda tribe, you have Lohars, you have Kurmali, you have Chik Bairek. So these are all the different tribes that are found over there. Traditionally, everybody has their own way of work, that is art. Asur tribe, iron smelting. Lohar tribe, they have blacksmithing. Mahli tribe, they have basketing. You have Chik Barek, these are the people who practice weaving. Okay, so there are various tribes. Now you have to write about the social and economic role of artisan tribes. I told you, right? Elvin and Roy, they have worked over there. So they have said that these people engage with the local communities in terms of judge money. Okay, so there is reciprocal exchange in terms of judge money. And what has happened with the coming up of modern market? You have modernization of tribal craftsmanship in Jharkhand, and that's what I have given in the paper to PDF also. That trifed is an important question. So it is completely, I believe that they were intending to talk about the impact made by trifid in the Central Indian tribes, especially artisan tribes. That is the reason they have asked this question. So this is my understanding. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you from which unit. See, in tribals, you cannot make a clear cut differentiation in terms of units. But for other units, I'll try to give a mentioning. Okay. And next question, causes of stunting and wasting among the tribal children. This is straightforward question. Next, you have PVTGs, particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So again, if you have seen the list of important topics, I have mentioned few schemes over there, along with the topic PVTGs, Janman, Juga. So, and various other schemes related to PVTGs has to be written. and the data that you get through, I try to provide as much as I can in the paper 2 anthropology PDF from the latest updates. But if at all, if you can make additions, because most of the data that is available over net, I try to provide, but beyond that, I think it's not available. So you can quote some data, talk about the limitations that were present with respect to the implementation of the schemes with respect to PVTGs, and why they were called as primitive tribal groups. So this is a basic understanding of concept again. And coming to PISA and women's political organization, this is a straightforward question. And next, you have deconstruct the colonial history of Indian anthropology. So you take LP Vidyarthi's evolution of Indian anthropology and talk about the earliest phase, who are all involved, different anthropologists, what were their methods and what were their flaws, and how did the Indian anthropologists try to critically analyze them and not adopt everything that they have said. Rather, they tend to choose what exactly suits to the Indian society. So these things you have to highlight, and it is also straightforward. And coming to the third question, which is little tricky, but still again, if somebody has understood archaeology, they'll again be able to deal this question. So the question is Rakhi Gari and its linkages to the Harappan civilization or Harappan cities. Okay, so how Harappan civilization and these are linked. So here you have to look at the Rakhi Gari, what has been found there. So if you are aware what has been found there, then by making a broad conclusions you can connect. But if you have to write specifically, then you must know the studies. And this paper is clearly demanding that every anthropology student has to understand the evolution of anthropology. Okay, they should not be very static. So your search for research papers should be continuous, and the studies should definitely be updated. You cannot continue with the same old statistics and the studies. Old statistics and old studies will definitely lead you to the backseat because somebody who is updating their information will take over. So the trend, what you can observe here, the trend is moving towards the dynamic part. It is no more static. It is becoming dynamic. So if you have to be prepared for the dynamic portion of the syllabus, you have to be updated with the latest happenings, latest research papers. Okay, so this is with respect to Rakhi Gari and Harappan civilization. And one more tricky question, that is that comparison of MN Srinivas and LP Vidyarthi. Generally, what is expected is S.C. Dubey is very famous in Indian village studies, or Andrew Beetle is very famous. They don't expect LP Vidyarthi to be compared, but UPSC wants to check your understanding, core understanding. Okay, so what LP Vidyarthi has done, whereas he studied, and MN Srinivas. So basically, if you look at comparison, theoretical foundation of MN Srinivas heavily leaned towards the caste studies and Sanskritization, Westernization. But LP Vidyarthi focused on tribal societies and tribal studies and used the sacred complex. Okay, he used the sacred complex concept to explore the social change. So you can write the comparison of theoretical foundation. Then you can talk about the scope. What is the scope? Srinivas scope, like he focused primarily on, MN Srinivas primarily focused on Hindu village society and interactions between the castes that are present within the villages. But now, if you look at Vidyarthi, his approach was very broader. He was incorporating ecological and religious aspects with particular focus on tribal societies. So, somebody who is new to the syllabus altogether might find it little difficult to understand. but you'll relate it when you complete your syllabus. I just want to give a broader understanding to the entire questions that have been asked and where the difficulty is felt. So you can see whatever the question is asked, it is checking the core concept of the student. The core concept, if you are not clear, then definitely the score is going to reduce. So it's very important that you understand, then you update yourself. You understand at the same time, you update yourself with respect to the latest happenings. If you're not updating and if you're not understanding, then there are chances things may go wrong at the end. So the next question is BK Roy Burman's concept of buffer zone. See, BK Roy Burman, I have told you in the previous 10 to 12 minutes video which I have done that BK Roy Burman is an important person. So you have to learn about him. So, and it appeared as well. So Roy Burman's concept of buffer zone. See, if somebody is having little understanding also, they'll write. You know that there is state and there are tribal indigenous populations or local populations. Now, state wants to extract the resource or develop. Now, Roy Burman emphasized that there should be some buffer zone to protect the rights of the marginalized groups. Okay, now development should happen. We cannot stop development. But along with that, you maintain some buffer zone so that the protection of the tribal rights happens. At the same time, the risk of conflict and ensuring the benefits of development do not bypass the vulnerable community. So now the development will happen at the same times the conflict will reduce if you have a buffer zone. So this is what has been suggested by BK Roy Burman. If you just explain, that would be sufficient. And there is one more ILO Convention 169. So it is international instrument aimed at protecting the rights of indigenous and tribal peoples worldwide. India did not join it. The reason is that India has thought that it will compromise the sovereignty. Okay, so in making decisions, particularly concerning the land and resource rights, if you see the implementation of Land Rights Act in India is very poor. So definitely that if India ratifies, their conventions will have sanctions over the countries and that will compromise the country's sovereignty. So Indian government has chosen to address the tribal issues through its national laws and policies such as panchayats, extension to scheduled areas act, that PISA act that has been asked, right? Forest Rights Act. So some nationwide measures has been taken. So our own approach is there. So through this, we have tried to understand the problem that is there by ratifying. Okay, so just reading whether it's ratified or did not ratify does not make any sense. Why we are not ratifying? What is the reason? Okay, most of the times we tend to focus on that factual part, but UPSC is asking you the understanding. So again and again, I'm trying to tell you what is the trend. What is the trend of UPSC? The trend of UPSC is to test your understanding. It is testing your understanding and keeping you on your toes to be updated with the latest happenings. So these are the two things. See, I'll be discussing all the questions in a very greater detail with each and every part of this answer will be addressed. But now we are just looking at the trend and the typical questions, which is generally not discussed across the YouTube. Okay. So next you have PK Baumik's contribution to decriminalizing the status of Lodha tribe. If you look at the Lodha tribe, they were listed under the Criminal Tribes Act of 1871. So they have been put under the 1871 Criminal Tribe Act. So the background, that post independence also, even after removing that act, still the stigma continued. So, what did Baumik do? He has conducted ethnographic studies and advocated humanizing the Lodha tribe. Whatever the mistakes or the crimes that they were doing, it is because of socio-economic conditions and not because of the what do you call their inherent nature. So, inherent criminality within the tribe is not there. It is because of the socio-economic conditions. You address the socio-economic conditions, automatically the crime rate will reduce. So he said, humanize the Lodha tribe, focus on the socio-economic development. Okay, and this suggestions by Baumik has led to the policy influence and rehabilitating the criminalized tribes like Lodha and other tribes as well. So collaborative efforts has been done. Okay, Baumik worked with the social reformers, local administrators, non-governmental organizations, and he tried to overcome the stigma that is there. So overall, what impact he has produced is changing the perception of the people and bringing up the government programs and the legacy that Baumik has set for the other upcoming anthropologists to work towards the developmental oriented solutions. So this is how you can address this question. So if you look at paper 2 overall, paper 2 is emphasizing upon two things. One is understanding the concepts well, and next, updating yourself with the latest research papers. See, rest of the questions are straightforward. You will be able to deal it. You'll find the answers anywhere. So in the questions which you feel difficult, I try to give a brief. So overall, if you look at anybody who has done their conceptual understanding well, okay, so they'll be able to deal it. So some scholars has to be updated from the latest research papers. You have to be updated with respect to studies. So if you are done with those things, then you'll automatically able to write. So there's one more question, that ethical concerns in biological and sociocultural anthropology because of recent advances in AI and genetic research. If you look at my classes, the very first thing that I tell before starting RDNA technology, you should always emphasize on the ethical concerns in the biological research. Okay, then they've asked sociocultural anthropology also. So then coming to AI, and this I have discussed, I think in rapid revision course, I guess. So I have said that now you have metaverse. Okay, in metaverse, you're getting into the virtual world. Now in this virtual world, there might be chances of discrimination still there. So now how sociocultural anthropology can play a role to overcome that. This is the way how sociocultural anthropology can help AI overcome the problems. But despite that, there will be some concerns with respect to these branches of anthropology. So, what are those concerns and how we can address that? These things you have to mention as part of this answer. I'll be giving you the detailed answer, but what is the question demanding? So, some of the students have raised this question. Okay, so who has been part of the program, they might be aware, right? So basically, try to understand the core concepts. Then, after understanding the core concepts, along with the core concepts, keep yourself updated with the research papers on that topic. Once you are updated on the research papers of that topic, automatically you'll be comfortable with paper 2. Right. So, whatever I'm talking, this might be little disinteresting, but the reality is such that we cannot escape this boredom. You have to do it. There is no escape to it. If you are willing to score in the exam, you have to work on your basics well, understand things. You have to update with research papers. Do not run after the resources that are there in the market. Don't think that just by reading a particular book or reading toppers notes things will be sorted. Even in the past, many of the toppers have emphasized that you should work on your own research. Okay, so you should work on your own research and you should update your notes. You should make your own notes. You can take help how to do the notes, but you should not copy as it is. Just by copying, it does not become your notes. Okay, so this is with respect to paper 2. And coming to paper 1, okay, paper 1 has been straightforward, and I have given the list of questions and the links from where the questions have come. Okay, so mostly they're straightforward. One question which has been asked, like contemporary challenges in the fieldwork of anthropology. Even that question, if you're following my Telegram group, you are aware that we have already seen it. And structural analysis of myth. So instead of asking Oedipus myth, this time they have asked a different myth. But the core and the understanding analysis of myth remains the same. So if you can remember what has been done in the class with respect to structural analysis of myth, then you'll be easily able to write the answer. At least you'll meet 80% of the demand. So the core factual part, which remaining 20% is there, that you might not be doing well, but rest you'll be automatically addressing. Okay, so from this, what you people should do now? Okay, so we have analyzed the trend. The trend is moving towards the core understanding and updating your research content, because you should write the latest things. You can't quote the same old things to address the new questions. So now what anybody who is preparing for 2025 has to do? I would suggest take the syllabus, divide it into micro topics. For each topic, try to develop the conceptual understanding. Don't tend to read from any common book that is present in the market, which will not be giving you the complete understanding anthropologically. Okay, so first try to understand from the right book. Just go to the right resource, take the topic, understand the concept. After understanding the concept, search for the relevant research papers that have been published. So from those relevant research papers, make an addition. Try to understand what is happening with respect to it. How did I give you that evolution of fieldwork in anthropology, the latest happenings? Because I have been following the research papers, looking at for each topic what is the development that is happening, what could be the probable thing. That's how I have done. So following the right resources is important. Keep updated yourself with the latest happenings after understanding the core concepts. Please don't run after the resources that are there in the market where people are dumping too many. What happens is you'll get confused. Just pick a right resource. I think for a beginner, IGNO should be the right resource, or EPG Patashala should be the right resource. And after that, for research, so research, most of the times you don't find the right research, because almost all the papers will be paid, and whatever is freely available will not meet the demand of the UPSC syllabus. Okay, there is a lot of research, but to sync with our syllabus, that may not be available. So you can take help of any mentor or anybody you know, any senior. You can approach them, take the help, and get those researches and just update yourself. That will help you overcome the latest problem that UPSC is trying to put in front of you. Because there was a previous trend that you study so and so things, you go to the exam hall, you dump it, and you come back, you'll get the score. But that's not anymore. In the last year also, you have seen there is change, and this year also, you notice the change again. Okay, so you can ask your doubts. I'll be doing the complete analysis of PYQs in a greater detail. Okay, I'll take up each question, discuss how you have to write the introduction, how you have to write the body, what scholars you have to include, how to write the conclusion. All these things I'll be discussing. But I wanted to give a brief overview of the entire paper today so that you understand whether you are going in the right direction or not. Many of the people running after the things which are freely available, or going for the products which are sold for a lesser price. See, I would like to tell you, if the product is good, if you're buying, that's not an issue. But see, the cost that you're going to have if it is not the good one. It's completely 1 year. You can't put a price to precious youth, 1 year of life. So whenever you're making a decision, be very careful because it's so distractive today. That's the reason even I have to make the video. Okay. So if you have any doubts, please ask. That's the reason even I make the video. Please ask your doubts. I'll be giving a proper sheet of analysis of paper 1 and paper 2 from which topics they have been asked, and the document will clear your doubt PK. I'll prepare a document where I'll be mentioning from which topics they have been asked. So there are no doubts. Shall we end the session? Okay. We'll meet in the next session where I'll be taking up PYQs in a greater detail. That's all. Thank you. How to approach research for new topics. See, they are actually not new topics, they are the old topics only, but we are seeing for the first time in UPSC. So, as an anthropology student, if somebody who is studying seriously in universities, so they all know this long before. So, they are present in the books 10 years ago. We are seeing it for the first time. They're not new actually. Okay. So, most of the things you will be able to find directly. One or two topics that can be handled with the broad knowledge that you have. Okay, Surya. Okay, everyone. Thank you. Good night.